Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
It's me, Egbert, once again. I'm the new owner of this station. I went out and hired the best talk radio consultant, Jeff Allen from News Talk STL, and told him to hire the worst talent he could find. Jeff did exactly as I told him. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Brad and John.
John, do we have an official name for this segment of the show? Is there something we could call it?
Yeah, it's the Tortured Politicians Department.
The Tortured Politicians Department. Maybe we need to get the B&J singers in to
to make us fun. And you have to include the in it. And I won't, I don't like to talk about a lot of private information here, but I had a beautiful young girl was looking at my computer screen one day, and she said to me, "You forgot the." And I had up on my screen Tortured Politicians Department because she knew that the album was called the Tortured Poets Department, Brad.
So where's the V come in?
The T, T-H-E.
Oh, I thought you said the V. Okay.
No. So we're ready whenever you are.
Okay. Here's what John does. He pulls off lyrics of the new Taylor Swift album, and he gives them to me, and he says, is this Taylor Swift lyric, or is it, who's the politician?
Today, it's Crystal Quade, House Super Minority Leader.
The roller derby queen.
That's her, and candidate for governor, yes.
Right. Okay. So you're going to read me a quote from one of the new, actually, you're going to read me a quote, and it's either from the Taylor Swift album or it's something that Crystal Quade has said, correct?
That's correct. And what I did, Brad, to ensure the veracity of this today, I went and I put the questions in. There's a website called Randomizer. So I pulled all the quotes, and then we have 10 lines today, Brad, and this is completely at random. So this eliminates the idea of, if I pull two Crystal Quades and then I feel like, oh, well, I got to have two now from Taylor Swift. So this is completely randomized, Brad.
Okay, John, I'm distracted a little bit for a minute. I'm making an appointment with my doctor. Hold on a minute. Yeah, I can be there.
And for those who don't know, the Tortured Poets Department came out originally, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, and then late at night, Taylor dropped the second part, which is called the Tortured Poets Department Anthology, which included even more links. Now, real Swifties will know that, Brad, and appreciate the fact that there's an entire second set of Taylor Swift gems. But if you look just at the original track listing, you're going to miss half the songs that she came out with last month, I should say.
Okay, how many do we have total?
We have a total of 10, Brad.
10. Last week we had 8, I believe.
Yeah, we had 8. And your batting average, Brad, Hall of Fame. You hit 500 last week, Brad.
4 for 4. Okay, number 1.
It wasn't the best time. It's never the right time to run.
I'd say Crystal Quade.
Correct answer is Crystal Quade. You're right, Brad. I put in the to run there as part of that quote, which is part of the quote because I thought it would throw you off. But yeah, she had a talk. Crystal Quade goes every year, or at least every 2 years, to Ozarks Technical Community College. There's a guy named Andrew Crocker, a political science professor who has a number of elected officials, and he has Melody Stinnett in. She's a state rep from the Springfield area. And Crystal Quade appeared there for the first time in 2016. And that quote that I just read you, Brad, was from 2020. She was talking a little bit about her origin in politics. And you know what? She had a brand new baby, and she said it wasn't the best time, but it's never the right time to run. So, Brad, you're batting 1,000 right now. You're 1 for 1. You ready?
Let's just stop right there.
Yep.
No, go ahead. Number 2.
Push the reset button. We're becoming something new.
That's Taylor Swift.
Correct, Brad. That is from her track, I'm Gonna Get You Back, which, by the way, is quite powerful. It's about, the phrase I'm gonna get you back. Is she meaning revenge, or does she mean I'm gonna get you back in a relationship? The lyrics are kind of hard to read if you've ever had a tumultuous relationship with someone, Brad. You think, She even talks about the fact she might slap this guy. Now, a man can't say that in a song, obviously, but she's like, am I going to slap you across the face or am I going to take you home?
John, I'm gonna just throw this in, and this has nothing to do with what we're doing right now, but it has to do with Taylor Swift. I think one of these days, and it may happen this year or 2 or 4 years from now, that what'll happen is that Taylor Swift will come out and say, you know what? My life has been the Truman Show. And I keep doing all these things in my life. I have this boyfriend. He's gone. Now I have a football star. He's a Super Bowl ring wearer guy. I'm just doing this just to essentially provide all the photo ops and all the conversation. My life is the Truman Show. What do you think?
And to generate economic activity. That's what she does, right?
Right. Okay. Third one.
Always been a fantasy, and the reality is about to slap us in the face.
Crystal Quade.
Absolutely correct, Brad. That was highlighted for the House Democrats Caucus Play of the Day. When they used to care about social media, they used to post things called Play of the Day, like somebody going out on the floor and saying something really wacky or witty. And that's a Crystal quote. Yeah, it's always been a fantasy, and the reality is about to slap us in the face. I think she was talking about the economy there, Brad.
Well, I'm doing well. I'm 3 for 3. Number 4.
Hands on the small of my back, guiding me through rooms. I get hugs when I don't want them.
That's got to be Taylor Swift.
That is absolutely Crystal Quade, Brad.
Oh, my God, I lost that one.
Yeah, she was talking about the unwanted advances. Let's just call it what it is, Brad. The creepiness of some guys when you're in a male-dominated environment. And, you know, I'm not exactly Johnny Feminist here, Brad. But when you're in a male-dominated environment, and you have men who are quite fond of themselves, and they think, I'm just going to put my hand on a back and guide her through a room. Like, how creepy is that, Brad? Like, if you don't know a guy and you're not intimate with a guy like touching you there? Ugh. Okay. Anyway, I included that because that definitely sounds like something that Taylor would say.
At least she hasn't had her hair sniffed. That's one thing we can say.
Well, we don't know, Brad. We don't know if she's met the president.
Okay.
Number 5. They slammed the door on my whole world. The one thing I wanted.
Crystal Quade.
Incorrect. That is Taylor Swift from the gem. But, Daddy, I love him. Now, you could have – I see how that could be Crystal Quade, Brad. You know, when you're talking about fighting as a woman in a male-dominated world, that one could work. Okay, we got an X on that one, Brad. You were incorrect on that.
I'm going backwards. I'm three positives and 2 negatives, okay? This is number –
You can always turn it around. Number 6,
Number
Brad.
6.
When it rains, it gets crumbly, and so I fell through his porch.
Crystal Quade?
Correct. Very good, Brad. She's talking about knocking doors and really the fact that sometimes you never know what somebody's going through. She walked through a guy who was renting a house, and apparently every year when the porch went bad, he'd buy more plywood with his checks, and she fell through like ankle deep through his porch, and he was sitting in his like recliner and couldn't get up to help her, and he's mortified and apologizes for it. When it rains, it gets crumbly, Brad. Boy, that's a metaphor for life, isn't it?
Well, I don't think she's talking about plywood, but being the semi-construction guy, I would say that was OSB, because when OSB gets wet, that's exactly what happens to it. It gets crumbly. So it probably wasn't plywood. But anyway.
Okay, number 7.
Okay.
Invited him to coffee. We sat down and tried to hash it out.
That's got to be Crystal Quade.
It is absolutely Crystal Quade. Good job. She was talking about the first time she ran for office back in 2016, and she was running against some old attorney in the Springfield area, some guy named Bob Sweeney, something like that. Crystal Quade won that with 65% of the vote, Brad, in that primary. Yes. Now, that sounds like something Taylor would say. You know, she's so magnanimous to the men that she's breaking up with. But it was actually Crystal. Okay, you're doing well, Brad. You're turning it around.
I'm 5-2 right now. Number 8, go ahead.
There is a path out, and the numbers don't lie.
Crystal Quade.
Whoo, you are on a roll, Brad. That is 3 in a row. Yeah, a year ago, actually 2 years ago, she spoke to the Mule Skinners, which is a group of Democrats in Colombia. And she was talking about the fact that Democrats are picking up a few more seats year by year, Brad. Under Crystal Quade, they've done much better than they did in previous years. Okay, by my count, Brad, you have gotten 6 correct and only 2 incorrect. We have 2 more. You ready?
Can I give a little observation on that? Do you know
Absolutely.
The Mule Skinners? Do you know there's you say that's a Missouri organization, but do you know there's a governor from out of state who belongs to that organization?
Yeah, it's Kristi Noem, isn't it?
Exactly. Okay. What was it, number 8?
Now we're on number 9.
Number 9. Okay, go ahead.
Wise men, excuse me, I should say this differently. Wise men once read fake news, and they believed it.
Crystal Quade.
Incorrect, Brad. That is Taylor Swift and the song The Albatross. Okay, you are 6 and 3, Brad. So you are guaranteed, by the way, to have a winning record. Unlike the St. Louis Cardinals and the Kansas City Royals, you are on a path to a winning record. Number 10.
Number 10.
Jeans and T-shirt. I look like a 12-year-old boy.
Ah, man, I can hear Taylor Swift saying that, but I don't know. I mean, she goes back to, she talks about her, one of my favorite all-time Taylor Swift songs when she was still doing country exclusively, which I thought was an incredibly well-crafted song, was Tim McGraw. You know the song Tim McGraw?
Oh, yeah.
When you hear Tim McGraw, if you ever seen the video, she's got a dude, and the whole idea is she dated this guy when they were in high school, the whole bit. I want to say Taylor Swift, but I want to say Crystal Quade.
You are correct, Brad. It is Crystal Quade. Jeans and T-shirt. I look like a 12-year-old boy. Now, as an aside, I've never met Crystal Quade. I'll probably never meet Crystal Quade. I can't imagine an occasion by which I'll meet Crystal Quade. From video, Brad, I don't think Crystal Quade looks like a 12-year-old boy. Like if you had a 12-year-old boy maybe fresh out of the WashU Transgender Center, maybe they would look like Crystal Quade. But I don't think anybody's confusing Crystal Quade with a 12-year-old boy. But in her remarks, she's always very humble, Brad. When a professor asks how he should refer to her, she says, "Just call me Crystal." So, she's being unassuming. Jeans and a T-shirt, I look like a 12-year-old boy. When, let's face it, Taylor Swift is built more like a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, she's very tall and not as curvaceous as Crystal is, because I've seen pictures of Crystal, and Crystal is not a beanpole. Crystal, I would say, was it 5'5", 5'6", something like that?
From folks who know her, who like her a lot, they tell me that she is shorter than that, Brad. I don't know.
Well, and Taylor Swift, I believe, is like 5'9" or 5'10", isn't she? She's tall.
I'm not sure. She strikes me as being tall. Correct. Yeah. Oh. Brad, you batted 600. You went 6 and 4 in this one, Brad.
Okay, I'm going to do this. This is going to drive me nuts. How tall is Taylor Swift? According there's Wikipedia, 5'10". See, I was right. 5'9", 5'10".
Wow. She's tall.
My daughter is 5'10", and my daughter to this day hates being tall. And this goes back to when she was on the dance team at high school, and she was always, and this is crazy, this is dad helping try to put a positive spin on her situation. She's 5'10", and when they did the dance routine, she was always in the middle, because what they did was they had the tallest girl on the squad, which was my daughter, and then from left to right and from right to left, they descended in heights. In other words,
like a bell curve.
Right. The shortest women were on the very ends, and then from that point, it went up in height to the center person, which was my daughter. And one time I said this to my daughter. I said, "Have you ever studied theater?" And she says, "No, not really." I go, "In theater, the most important place to be is center stage, because that's where everybody's eyes go. And by you being the tallest, you are on center stage. and everyone is looking at you.
Dude, what a terrible thing to say to a teenage girl.
She didn't like that.
Is there something worse you could tell a young woman than everybody's eyes are on you, watching you?
But the idea being is it was meant as a compliment because
of course it was.
The star is always in the center stage, right? When you go to the play, the star is right there at center stage because that's the whole idea behind it. You know, when you go to a movie that has Sylvester Stallone in it, he's always in the middle of the screen. You know, he's in every shot.
But you know what, though? I would say for your daughter, it's a great screening mechanism for men because if a man is intimidated by a smaller woman, or by a taller woman, and he feels some sort of insecurity about that, that's a great way to screen guys out and say, get out of here. Like, if you can't handle a woman being taller than you, like, I want nothing to do with you.
I have a friend who is, and I won't dare mention his name because he'd get mad at me. He's about 5'6", 5'7", and he was divorced, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years ago, and he's been single ever since. And he always talks about the fact that he can never find a woman who's comfortable with his height, who is taller than him. And to the point where sometimes they'll actually come out and say, even if they're like 5'5" or 5'6", you know, almost being the same height as him, they will always say to him, well, if we go out, I can't wear heels. And I'm going like, I don't understand that. Do you understand the woman has to be shorter than the man thing?
No, but in my opinion, not knowing your friend, it speaks to his insecurity. And it has less to do with the women. I wouldn't put the blame on the women there because maybe some women do call based on height, and I think some of them do, and that's called CULL, based on height. But to me, it speaks more of your friend's insecurity there. And there's plenty of women for whom height is not a requirement. And also, like, I do know women that are roughly, boy, I won't make this a personal experience, but I do know women who aren't exactly short who will like wearing heels, and they feel it's part of a maybe part of a intellectual intercourse type thing, Brad. You know, like, hey, at this moment with these tall heels on, I'm taller than you. Let's see where this goes.
My daughter, once again, who's 5'10", you know how she cured her situation with her height?
Yeah, she cut her legs off.
No, she married a guy who's 6'10".
It's an easy solution,
and
Brad.
I'm not exaggerating. She married a guy who's 6'10".
There's a lid for every pot, Brad. Brad, I hope that you have some kind of success getting into your doctor. And when we get off the air, if you get in and you need a ride, please text me.
No, I think I'll be okay to drive. I really do.
Okay. And I'm free until kid pickup time. So I can make time until kid pickup time.
No, I've got my Tesla with the self-driving feature. And
you're going to crash into Gus's Pretzels, Brad. I know what you're up to.
And we didn't even talk about that. That's an interesting.
Maybe that's for tomorrow. Until then, I'm listening to my remix of Crystal Quade and Taylor Swift. It's a banger.
That's an interesting story in itself, the whole Gus's Pretzel thing. If you don't know what we're talking about, what the lady was speeding and she ran a red light and she smashed right into Gus's Pretzels headquarters right there in South City, right?
I thought it was Cottleville. Oh, no, it's the city. Hey, at least it wasn't Gus's Fashions in your city. If it was if Gus Torrerosa had a store crashed into, I couldn't take it, Brad.
Quick question. Did they ever fix the gay bar that the cop ran into? Is that fixed? Do you know about that weird story?
Yeah, it just has an extra back door now. You have to come in through the back.
I'm not touching that.
You can play around the front, but you got to come in through the back, Brad.
John?
Well, I'm talking about entrance and exit.
I'm not talking about that. It's.
See you guys tomorrow.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?